Elements of Harmony and Save Your Worlds by Arcade Striker JK5. Chapter 25. Wednesday morning. Applejack, Big Macintosh, Apple Bloom trotted down the main road leading to Canterlot, the city looming ahead of the three Earth ponies. Big Mac towed a small cart with a trunk tightly secured and safe. Apple Bloom bounced along, a huge grin pasted on her face.
I can't wait to tell the Archer Slayers about our trip to Canterlot.
Applejack chuckled as her younger sister bounced along. All right, Apple Bloom. Well, just don't mention that bit about the tape, you hear? A sigh escaped to Philly, but she nodded. After a couple of hours of walking and one stop for lunch, they arrived at the massive front gate of Canterlot itself. Big Mac paused for a moment at the edge of the drawbridge crossing the moat. His mouth dropped open slightly, and the stalk of wheat in his mouth fell to the floor. Whoa, he whispered. Applejack sidled up to her older brother. Yeah, pretty dang impressive. Still gives me the willies. She looked at the various other ponies, zebras, and even a giraffe walking into the capital, some towing carts and wagons of their own. I don't think we better get going, Big Mac. We're holding up traffic. A chuckle escaped the stallion, but he began walking along once more. The trio stood over to the side, and a guardhouse at the front door. A trio of soldiers stood at attention, members of the Royal Guard. Applejack trotted up to a unicorn stallion in golden armor and saddlebags. Excuse me, sir. My name's Applejack Apple. She motioned to the Big Mac and Apple Bloom. We're here for an appointment with Princess Celestia. The stallion's horn glowed, and a clipboard floated out of his saddlebag in front of him. He looked up and down before nodding. Ah, yes. I'll inform Her Majesty of your arrival. He turned his head. Private tomfoolery, he barked. Front and center. A nose-pointing mare trotted over and snapped to attention. Escort Miss Apple and her family to... He paused and looked back at the clipboard. Meeting room 3 in the north wing. Tomfoolery appeared.
Yes, sir,
she said, saluting. She trotted to Applejack's flank.
If you follow me, ma'am, I'll take you right to your appointment.
Big Mac nodded and smiled at Tomfoolery. Well, I guess John Armour's doing a lot better than I thought.
Tomfoolery nodded. Thank you, Mr. Apple. We've been through a small version of Tartarus by Captain Armour, but it's been worth it.
She started walking, leading the ponies through the gate into Canterlot itself. Applejack sucked in a breath at a sheer scale to say, Her sake, she said, eyes wide. This makes mine height and look like Ponyville. She looked over to Apple Bloom, who was craning her neck to try and take in everything. Hey, Apple Bloom, you wander off and either Big Mac or I will tan your hide. Gotcha? Apple Bloom sidled up to the car.
So long, Slayers.
She spied a fruit stand outside.
But I'll circle you some players.
Tomfoolery led them down various streets and through more than one intersection to arrive at the front gates of the Canterlot Palace itself, a shining edifice that seemed right out of the fairy tale. Large white towers pierced the sky, with onion domes at the top, and even some small landing platforms for Pegasi and airships on others. Members of both branches of the Royal Guard, the Solar Watch and the Midnight Watch, could be seen at various points along the curtain walls. Tomfoolery led them down a side alley to a large wooden double door. She spoke to a pair of guards there for a moment before the door swung open. They entered into a long, wide hallway that was rather clean and sparsely decorated. Apple Bloom's eyes started back and forth as she took in the white walls.
Not too fancy,
she remarked. Applejack's eyes narrowed. Apple Bloom! She hissed out. She glanced at Tomfoolery. Begging your pardon, ma'am. You know how fools can get. A smile played over Tomfoolery's lips.
Nothing to worry about.
She trotted back to a few steps and motioned to the cart as Big Mac tugged it.
A side entrance would be better to get this through the halls with a minimum of fuss.
After a few minutes of walking and riding a cargo elevator, the group stopped in front of the door, guarded by 2 members of the Royal Guard.
The Apple family here for their appointment with Princess Celestia,
Tomfoolery announced. The 2 guards exchanged a glance before one stepped aside and the other grabbed the door handle with his teeth and pulled it open. Tomfoolery straightened to attention before marching into the room. She quickly cantered to the side, allowing Applejack, Big Mac, and Apple Bloom to enter. The Earth Pony dropped to one knee.
The Apple family here to see you, Your Majesty,
she announced. Celestia looked up and smiled.
Thank you, Private.
The Diarch of the Sun was sitting on a large cushion with a table placed in front of her. Plates of food and 2 pitchers of drink were on the table, with 3 cushions arrayed around it. A stand was off to the side, with a large box on top of it. The box had a glass window in front of it, and a smaller box on top of it with thick, black wires crisscrossing in the back. A unicorn in blue uniform stood at the back and right of Celestia. eyeing the cart and trunk. Applejack, Apple Bloom, and Big Mac all bowed their heads to the princess. Thank you for this, your majesty, Applejack said, looking up. We all appreciate y'all staying for us, sis.
Celestia merely shook her head. It's no problem at all, Applejack.
She leaned forward.
Truth be told, I have been looking forward to this for a bit,
she said, winking. She spread out her wing and waited at the place of food.
Now, while Colonel Brighthooves looks over the items in your trunk and repairs any damage, please sit and enjoy the food.
Her gaze fell upon tomfoolery.
Thank you very much for bringing them here, Private,
she said, smiling warmly.
Please, wait outside until we're finished.
Tomfoolery bowed once more before turning and walking out. Big Mac knelt down, unhooking himself from the cart's harness. He, Applebloom, and Applejack walked over to the table and sat down on the cushions, bowing their heads to Celestia. Brighthooves trotted over to the back end of the cart. His horn glowed, and the straps holding the trunk in place unbuckled themselves. The trunk floated to the door, opened, and the contents floated out.
Excellent condition,
he said, eyes narrowing, as the map unfolded. He held up a hoof, and the wall began to glow. Tiny tears at the end of the crease marks mended themselves. Applejack looked over.
Now, you'll be careful, right?
She asked, a lump forming in her throat. She ducked her head low, and her ears flattened.
Begging your pardon, Princess. It's just... we just found out about this.
Celestia shook her head.
No need to apologize, Applejack. No need at all.
Her horn glowed, and a sandwich floated up to her muzzle. She eyed it for a moment before biting a rather sizable chunk from it. Applejack, Applebloom, and Big Mac leaned over their plates. Applebloom paused over a biscuit.
Psst, Applejack,
she said out of the side of her mouth.
What do we eat first?
Applejack paused over her own plate. Eyes darted back and forth over the food and glass of water.
She let the ground. If Aunt and Uncle Orange could see me now.
Celestia spoke up.
No need to stand on ceremony, Applejack. All three of you, go ahead and dig right in.
A teacup floated up, and the diarch of the sun took a rather large slurp from it. The three earth ponies all visibly relaxed and dug in. After a few moments, Brighthooves tried back to Celestia's side and dropped to one knee and bowed his head.
The protection and rejuvenation spells have been renewed,
he reported. He stood up and looked at Applejack.
The artifacts have been well taken care of.
Applejack reached up and tilted her head down slightly.
Thank you kindly, Colonel. Well, Granny Smith, what's it saying?
Brighthooves turned to Celestia.
By your leave.
At her nod, he walked out the door. The VHS tape floated over to Celestia's side. VHS tapes, for those of you who are under 20, which should be a lot of my audience, they're these little black rectangles that used to play video feeds on it. It's what we used to have before we got good and got DVDs.
Now then,
she unfurled the wing and motioned to the box.
This is called a television. It is the one of a number of devices Megan, Molly, and Danny brought over from Earth when they first visited.
She reached out and tapped the button next to the glass panel.
It's used for communication and can serve both entertainment and education.
The glass lit up. Big Mac leaned back as a loud buzzing sounded from the box.
What the hey?
He exclaimed, eyes bucking out. Applebloom, meanwhile, planted her hose on the table and leaned forward.
What is that?
She looked to Celestia.
Why is all that white and grainy? Oh, that box above! That's what's out there! Is it for the tape?
Celestia blinked white.
Why, yes, it is. It is for the tape.
Applebloom. The tape floated over to the box and slid into the slot.
Now, this is a video cassette recorder, or a VCR. It reads the magnetic tape of the cassette and translates it into picture and sound.
A smile played across her lip as the frozen image of an orange earth pony with a key mark and 5 apples appearing in the glass.
Here we go.
Applejack gasped at the image.
It's in color.
Her iris twitched.
I am saying too!
It's like a movie theater could go in some pony's living room. Big Mac leaned in.
It's like a real there.
His eyes narrowed.
That pony up there looks mighty familiar.
He glanced at Applejack.
Wait a minute. Except for a cutie mark, she looks just like Applejack.
Celestia let a wistful smile form on her mouth.
Her name was Applejack, believe it or not. She was from Dream Valley.
She glanced over her shoulder, and 4 cartons of popcorn floated over to light in front of everyone there.
All ready?
Applejack, Big Mac, and Applebloom took the cartons between their forelegs and began quietly munching on the popcorn. Applejack nodded her assent while ducking her head for more of the salty snack. Celestia's horn glowed, and the image began moving. Instead of white noise, a familiar sound sounded out.
Okay, Applejack, it's running.
There was a pause.
Well, go ahead and say something.
Applejack gasped. It's Megan. This must have been when she was a youngin'. Applejack tilted her head to the side.
Well, what do I say?
Megan lowered the camera slightly.
Well, anything you want to, Applejack.
It's your birthday, after all. She raised the camera back up to her eye. Anything you'd like to say to your daughter for the future? Applejack sat on her back, conscious and rubbed her chin.
Well, I hope my little Applejack grows up to be big and strong. I hope Applejack Acres grows lots of apples for all of us. I hope...
She trailed off.
I just hope we can see tomorrow.
Applejack, Big Mac, and Apple Bloom sat in rapt fascination at the video. See tomorrow, Applejack muttered. She tipped her head low and slid off her head. I guess things really were my bad back then. Celestia let out a sigh. It was, Applejack. Even with the alliances forged and knowledge brought over, Dream Valley of Ponyland was very dangerous. She sat up straight as the image on the elevator changed. Oh, here's my favorite part. Happy birthday to you. Everyone finished singing to Applejack, who sat at the head of a rather long table. A blue-coated earth pony with a cutie mark of 3 purple gumdrops and 3 pink gumdrops hailed a triple-layer cake up to the table.
My masterpiece,
Celestia declared. The ponies slammed their heads to the table and applauded the cake. That is a rather remarkable feat of culinary engineering, one Whistler said. Interesting choice to have the candles molded in the shape of apple trees recently planted.
Oh, well, gosh, it looks good too, Fizzy said.
Celestia walked around the cart.
One problem, though.
Her head darted back and forth.
How do I get on the table?
A pink-coated unicorn hopped off her chair and trotted over to the cake. She closed her eyes and horn glowed. I wish, Twilight said, her brow furrowing. The cake disappeared from the table, only to reappear on the table. Twilight's violet eyes glittered, and she roared back, kicking the sky.
I did it!
Megan, holding the video camera, walked over to her friend. Yes, sir, Lad, she said, kneeling down rubbing her mane. She turned back to the table and looked at Molly sitting there. Molly, could you light the candles, please? Molly looked at Megan.
Yeah, sure.
She pulled out a lighter of her back pocket and leaned over, let the wick sticking out of the tree candle canopies. She chuckled slightly.
Don't think smoke of the bale will I fade.
Several of the ponies exchanged looks of confusion, but Megan spoke up. Earth thing. I'll tell you about it later. She walked up to Applejack and focused the camera on the Earth pony. Okay, make a wish. Applejack looked up at the camera.
I wish for peace in Ponyland. I wish that someday little Applejack and Celestia and Luna and all of us can be able to sit back and not worry about trolls or warlords or war griffins. I wish the trees we plant could grow up big and tall, gives us lots of big, juicy apples. She looked down on the grass and sighed. Megan, do you think that can happen one day?
Megan lowered the camera slightly, a lump in her throat. She reached out and gently ruffled Applejack's mane.
It won't be easy. It'll take time.
But together, we'll get there. The tape eventually ended. The 3 Earth ponies sat on their cushions, staring at the blank television screen. Finally, Applejack turned to Celestia. Your Majesty? Thank you for showing us this. We're mighty grateful for it. Yup.
Yay! That was great.
Celestia beamed.
Thank you for bringing the tape. I always look forward to seeing this.
Her horn glowed, and the tape popped out. The small piece of plastic floated over her two and into the trunk, which itself floated into the trunk.
Now please be careful with it. I hate to see it ruined before any of you bring your own foals to watch it,
she said, winking. Applejack turned a bright crimson. Wow, well, say your dainties! Celestia stood up. She trotted over to Applejack and lay down.
Gotcha.
She whispered into the Earth pony's ear. She went to the door and telephoned opened it.
Tom Furley?
She called out. The guard entered the room.
Yes, your majesty,
she said, bowing down. Celestia waved a wing at Applejack, Big Mac, and Apple Bloom.
Please escort the apples out.
Her eyes suddenly narrowed.
And please, tell the guards outside not to disturb me unless there's an emergency. Understood?
Tom Furley nodded.
Of course.
So he backed up and turned around. If you follow me. Big Mac hitched himself to the cart and began walking out. Apple Bloom following. Applejack followed, but stopped and turned to the princess. Princess? She paused and took a deep breath before continuing. If at all possible, well, there's a family reunion in about a year and a half, so to tape it all and... She trailed off, cheeks flushing crimson. Celestia stepped over. She leaned down and gently nuzzled Applejack. Let me know the time and place, and I'll make sure the television and VCR are there. Applejack seemingly visibly deflated. Thank you, Princess! Thank you! She backed out, bumping slightly into Apple Bloom. Sorry, Apple Bloom! The filly let out a sigh. Applejack, y'all could be a right silly pony sometimes. Big Mac let out a chuckle. Let me tell you about this one time. His voice trailed off as he exited the room, Tom Frawley slightly ahead of him. Celestia waved at them as they walked out. As soon as Apple Bloom's trail cleared the threshold, she nudged the door and locked it. A grin formed on her face as a portable cassette player floated out from behind her cushion. A tape already inside it. It's been too long, Celestia said as he telekinetically tapped the play button. Guitar storming from the speaker, followed by the somewhat nasal voice of a singer named Roger Smith. I don't care if Monday's blue, Tuesday's gray, and Wednesday too. Thursday, I don't care about you. It's Friday, I'm in love. Celestia thrust her forelegs out, followed by a hind leg. Her eyes fluttered as close to music washed over her. Her wings unfurled as she reared back slightly. Her head bobbed back and forth to the beat. Monday, you can fall apart. Tuesday, Wednesday, break my heart. Thursday doesn't even start. It's Friday, I'm in love. The door suddenly swung open, and Luna stepped into the room, ears twisting. Celestia, I can hear you 2 floors up. What in Ponyland are you? She trailed off as she beheld her sister, Diarch of the Sun, looking more like she was having spasms than dancing. She slowly shook her head as Celestia continued. I didn't know you kept the tape out of the vault. A smile formed her mouth. If we'd visit, I could see you now. Celestia spun around on one hoof. I tell her that the cure still speaks to my soul. She reached out with her hooves and wrapped her around her neck, pulled her into the room. Come on, let's dance. Luna only put up the fairest hint of tugger resistance. Within seconds, she was swaying to the beat of Friday, I'm in love. The two sisters danced for some time to the music of their youth, their duties and responsibilities forgotten for the moment, as old memories surfaced once more, to be relished and relived, if only for a brief time. And now, all I can see is Luna and Celestia dancing. Thank you, Arcade! Chapter 26. Saturday, the afternoon of the Grand Gala. Megan glanced down at herself as she buttoned up her green gala dress. She, Molly, her daughters, and the rest of the gala attendees were in the back of Carousel Boutique, getting ready for tonight. Unlike a number of dresses she had worn over the years, this one was easy to put on, with a minimum of fuss. No tiny zipper in the back, just a series of buttons that were rather large. Perhaps for a pony's mouth and hooves, she thought to herself. She slid a deep red vest over the dress and clinched a brown belt around her waist. She walked into a full-length mirror and walked into the mountain and looked herself over. Behold! I'm Annie Oakley reborn! She declared, holding her arms out and twirling about. Her skirt, calf length, flared out slightly, keeping her legs free for the moment. Pattern stitches on her sleeves caught the light, shining brightly. Verity tried over to Megan's side. The unicorn was wearing her dress, but her mane and tail were still enclosed in curlers, and her hooves were bereft of her custom-made glass slippers. I am sorry, darling, she said, batting her eyes in Megan's direction. It turned out adopting clothes to human form was a bit harder than I thought. I spent most of the time simply adapting what I know to your body. She rolled her eyes. Same basic structure, 4 limbs, a torso, and a head. The details, though, she started. Please. Megan looked herself over, rubbing her fingers along finely stitched embroidered patterns of leaves and branches along the belt. I don't think you're doing a good job, she said, reaching down and gently patting Rarity right behind her horn. She looked over to Molly, who was standing next to Pinkie Pie, as the latter was sitting in a chair, having her mane dried. A lot fancier than what we wore the first time, don't you think? Molly's eyes shifted over. She wore a slim blue dress with sparkling strands woven into the fabric that shimmered when the light hit at the right angles, tracing lines down her body. Her blonde hair was done up in curls, reminiscent of when she was younger. Rarity, if this is a rest job for you, I'd kill to see something from you when you have enough time,
She placed a hand on the back of her head and looked at her reflection. I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
Megan held up a hand at point. Everybody's confusing. Old movie reference. Everyone, carry on. Hey, nothing wrong with a classic, Megan. A few minutes of prepping and preparation passed before there was a knock on the door. How you ladies doing there? Mike's voice called out from the other side. Rarity looked over his shoulder, heart slowing lightly as she adjusted the lower rays of her dad's ears.
You'll be done in a few minutes, Mike, she called out. Perfection does take time after all.
Dad snorted, stopped her hose. Can the perfection take a little less time, please? She fizzed slightly. Come on, Rarity. It's not going to be staying in one place once I meet the Wonderbolts. She reared back, nickering slightly. Rarity's eyes narrowed and took on an ominous squint to them.
Rainbow Dash! If you don't stand still, I will get Michelle to brush your mane and tail!
Dash's entire body started straight, locking into place. I'm good, she cried out, eyes widening. Another half-minute passed before Rarity's horn ceased going.
And there, she announced. With that clip, you'll have to do another solid green boot to dislodge it.
Danielle went over to the pair. Her gray dress flowed out of the bomb, barely brushing the tops of her feet. A hat reminiscent of those worn at graduation ceremonies topped her short brown hair.
Bias, you look like you flew straight out of Grace Realm, she commented. She looked at Rarity and smiled. Rarity, I don't know how we can repay you for this.
She laid her left hand above her abdomen and spun about.
Well, this fits like a glove.
Rarity gave a rather unladylike snort. She waited for Danielle to face her before waving the young woman in. She waited for Danielle to lean forward before speaking.
Just be told, Danielle, if anyone asks, this telephone made it. With that kind of publicity, I'll be raking in so many bits I'll have to buy City Hall to store the rest in.
Her eyes went wide, and a rather mad bark of laughter escaped her mouth. Dash and Danielle glanced at each other before backing off, keeping their eyes on Rarity as she rubbed her hose together. They spun around, spotting Megan kneeling down in front of a safe. Dash hopped to the air, wings spread under her multicolored cape, and glided over to her by her hand. What you doing? The Pegasi asked. Megan spun the safe style around a few times before pulling down the release lever and opening the solid door. Rarity let me keep a pair of pistols in here while we changed. She extracted a pair of Colt single-action revolvers from the safe. With a factious motion, Megan opened up the cylinder and eyed the chambers. I don't anticipate trouble, but I'll never hurt to be prepared. Daz blinked and her jaw dropped. You're bringing a gun to the Grand Gallery Gala? She landed on the floor, a mile quicker her hose tinted the tiled floor. But why? And do the princesses know? And why? Megan glanced up, holstering both pistols in her belt. Yes, I am. I asked Celestia, Luna, and Cadence, and they cleared it with shining armor, since the Royal Guard will be providing security. I'm not expecting trouble, but I won't be caught unprepared. She slid the 38 long Colt cartridges into the slots of the belt. The day I don't bring any weapons is the day I'll need them. Megan, let me just say, I'm seeing your dress and outfit in my head, and I gotta say, that is freaking awesome. It's the type of look that says, yeah, I'm a down-hole southern country gal, but you mess with me and you're gonna get a Colt stuck up your rump. That is just freaking awesome, and I love you, girl. Rarity trotted over to Daz's side and observed Megan honoring herself.
I do hope the holsters I made with you are up to your specifications, she said. I used the soft plastic and made sure the opening was trimmed down, with nothing for your pistols to get hung up on.
Ladies and gentlemen, Rarity didn't even know what guns were until recently, and she did that. This is why she's awesome. Megan stood up. She turned away from Rarity and Daz before grabbing one of her Colts and drawing it out. After a beat, she holstered it once more. Quick and smooth, she commented. Thanks, Rarity. Danielle wandered all over, crossed her arms in front of her chest.
Mom, is it gonna be all right bringing your peacemakers to the gala? Those are antiques after all.
She leaned it over a safe, resting her hands on the gray surface.
I'm surprised you don't have one of your rifles slung over your back.
Megan shook her head. Too obvious. The pistols and my knife will do for protection in case something goes down. Daz blinked. Knife? You got a knife, too? Megan raised her right leg and planted her foot on the safe, showing off the hilt of a knife tucked into a scabbard down to the boot. Again, I don't want to use it, but I feel better having it on me. She grunted slightly as she swung her leg back out and onto the door. Damn! Not as limber as I used to be, she said, through thoroughly gritted teeth. The hairdryer of Pinky sat on her tilted back, allowing the pink party pony to bound out of the chair. She hopped out the room.
Oh, this is gonna be great!
She sighed, landing right next to the desk.
Are you all excited? Because I'm excited too, because this night will be great!
She suddenly floated over into the ponykin that her dress was hanging off of. She rolled his eyes.
Okay, ready. I'll get ready.
Rarity glanced back and nodded, the glow around her horn fading.
Good, because you're the last one.
She raised a hoof and waved it about, making sharp downward motions to it.
Charlie and Fluttershy are outside getting some sort of surprise ready.
She shrugged as everyone looked to her.
I don't have a clue what. It's a surprise pot. And Applejack's getting her apple stand ready for tonight, too.
She suddenly began following her bare hoof and gasped.
Oh no! I still have a ton of preparation ahead of me.
She reared back and kicked the air before galloping to a large white desk with a mirror mounted on it. Drawers opened. Brushes and tweezers and a half-dozen other makeup implements floated about. Compacts opened up and all around Rarity as the rollers of her mane and tail loosened. Megan nodded in the unicorn's direction. Okay, she's done for a nice air. She glanced to her right. Danielle, could you please check up on Twilight Versa? I think Michelle's with them too. She glanced back into a door that led to the outside to the rear carousel boutique. And I'm going to check on Applejack. There was another knock on the door. You ladies all right? Mike called out again. Spike's getting a little anxious out here. Verity turned from the veritable cloud of beauty enhancement products floating about her head and tail.
We're still getting ready,
she called out. She turned back and rolled her eyes.
Honestly, Stannings can be so impatient. Perfection takes time, after all.
Megan walked up to the door and leaned against it. Give us a few more minutes, Mac. We're almost ready. She stepped back and began walking to the rear, pausing near Rarity's desk and looking down. Rarity? How are Danny and Mike with their own suits? They're not exactly wolves for fancy clothes. She suddenly started. Okay, none of us are. Rarity looked up as false eyeglass attached itself to an eyelid.
Those two? Then, they didn't put up any sort of fuss about it.
She cocked her head to the side and bit her lower lip.
Actually, Mike seemed rather confused. He kept on slipping on some odd accent that sounded right out of Canterlot.
She turned her back to the mirror.
And Danny kept on referencing something called an Austin Martin.
Meg complained to look to the door.
My!
She said, waving an errant thought off. She turned and without another word went for the door and outside the boutique. Mike adjusted his tie and looked himself over in the mirror. Martinis, second, not third, he said, a grin forming on his mouth. He glanced over as Danny rolled over, clad in a similar tuxedo. I'll only have lost to deflate bullets and maybe a real cool car. Danny looked up. Let's all. He motioned to his wheelchair. The frame had been polished to a bright sign, and the wheels had decorative limbs attached to the hub. Gems lined his armrest, alternating between rubies and emeralds. I swear, all I need is a master lancer and oil slick and styled. Rarity, don't ever change. Just don't. You are awesome, girl. Spike wandered over to the pair. He wore the shirt and coat of a tuxedo, a jewel-encrusted bow tie. A top hat perched on his head crest, balanced just so. He leaned on Danny's wheelchair and pointed a finger up to Mike. Looking good, guys. Looking real good. Mike pointed right back at the baby dragon. Right back at you, Spack. He took a few steps forward. Never be into fancy clothes, but I think Rarity can make anything could be an exception. He took on a second sleeve. Not even my wedding suit fit this good. Danny rubbed his chin as he looked over Mike. I say she couldn't hide down sightly bulge that make you look less like Bone and more like a member of the Secret Service. He crossed his arms and shook his head. Bad enough Megan's packing heat, but you tell you? Mike rolled his eyes and pulled back his jacket, revealing a shoulder holster and a Smith & Wesson Model 10 revolver tucked inside. I'm not too fond of wearing it, but considering all the insane stuff Megan told me about Ponyland, rereading her books, and some of the stuff Twilight's told us about what she's done since coming to Ponyville, I'm not taking any chances at the moment. His eyes fell upon the door that led back to the teaching room. Especially not with Michelle Danielle here. Danny opened his mouth before his head dropped. Okay, got me there, he admitted. His head shot over to the door as it opened. Rarity, Pinkie Pie, Rainbow Dash, Molly, and Daniel strutting out. Rarity walked up to Mike and looked at him.
Sorry we took so long.
She glanced over her shoulder at everyone else.
Perfection may take a bit of time, but it's worth it in the end.
She crossed the foreleg in front of the other and batted her long eyelashes at Mike.
What do you agree, Mike?
Mike held up a hand. No arguments from me, Rarity. He looked over at Danielle, his mouth opened slightly.
Danielle, you look beautiful.
He walked over to his older daughter, shook his head. My word, you're all grown up. He looked to Molly. When does he grow up? He looked back to quickly blessing Danielle. When does he all grow up? Molly shook her head. She placed the forearm on Mike's shoulder and leaned against him.
Should I go by and get over and get the rainbow braids and get Jimmy back for the gala?
Mike jerked his shoulder back and walked there. Quiet, Molly. He looked over at Danielle, still staring in disbelief. My little girl's all grown up. Pinky pulled out a handkerchief from somewhere and remained and dabbed her eyes.
Oh, that is so sweet. Daddy's little girl's growing up, but it's so sad because he's growing up. But I know I can cheer every pony up.
Daniel leaned over to Pinky and leaned over his armrest.
Pinky, you wouldn't happen to have heard of a Pegasus pony named Surprise, would you? My coat, very similar cutie mark to yours.
He waved his hand in front of her muzzle. Ring any bells from family history. Pinky's eyes crossed as he tried following Danny's hand.
Not on the top of my mane.
She rubbed the pink mask that sat upon her head.
But I do love spaces!
She glanced over at Danny.
What's this Pegasus a friend of yours from Dean Valley?
She asked, her voice taking an air of seriousness. Danny nodded. See what else? He said, his voice catching at the end. He looked at the ladies. Say, where's Megan? Molly's head bobbed back and forth in the direction of the ladies had come from.
She went out back to check up on Applejack, Michelle, and that car of hers.
Her jaw carried right.
Is Applejack really thinking of trying to sell stuff at the gala?
She scratched her head.
You'd think something like this would be cared.
Dad shrugged. Hey, who wouldn't want to eat something when you got the best Apple Place products in Equestria right there? She hopped to the air to the front door. Honestly, I'm bored in here. Let's see how Twilight and Fluttershy are doing. Danielle walked past her father and out to the front door.
This is right. Let's go check on the Twilight and Fluttershy.
She followed Daz outside. Rarity, Molly, Danielle, and Pinky followed the pair. Mike at the rear. He stopped in front of the mirror, held up an index finger, and pointed at the reflective surface. Bang, he said, grinning like a child. Molly rolled her eyes to the ceiling. She spun about, marched back, and grabbed Mike in his arm. Hello, double old dummy, she said, dragging him out. Why is it that some of my best stories involving magical girls always seem to have a boyfriend who is at least one dork? Just saying. Megan walked outside into the cool, crisp, late morning air. She took a deep breath and smiled. Damn, this feels good. She looked around, quickly spotting Applejack and Michelle next to the Animal Family's market cart. Michelle, wearing her gala dress, was opening up several doors and calling out amounts of food to Applejack, who was sitting with a clipboard in front of her and pencil in her mouth.
5 cases of apple fritters,
she called out. She closed the door and opened another.
50 cartons of hay fries.
She closed that and swung another door.
2 kegs of cider.
She looked at Applejack.
I think that's it, Applejack.
Applejack fizzed rang and dropped the pencil. She looked up and nodded to the young girl. "I'm grateful you out to help me out here, Miss Sam. Made my work a whole lot too easier." She rose to hers and tried to the cart. "If I can make enough bits, you'll help out Silton Fairs." Megan cleared his throat, catching their attention. Michelle started to run around, but Applejack's entire body swung about, her eyes widening. Megan's eyes shifted between the two as she walked over to Applejack. Michelle, "Looks like you two did a great job helping out Applejack, Miss Sam. That's very nice of you." She dropped to one knee in front of her daughter, adjusted a ribbon tied to her hair. "Now, why don't you head out front, okay? Everyone else is there." Michelle wrapped her arms around Megan's neck and gave her a quick kiss on the cheek.
All right, Mo.
She smiled at Applejack before running off Carousel Boutique, quickly disappearing around the corner. Megan smiled as she watched Michelle run off. She glanced at Applejack, the earth pony not quite meeting her eyes. "Applejack, you all right? You were avoiding me earlier when we got dressed and hurried out here." She stood up and took a step closer to Applejack. "Is there anything wrong?" Applejack's cheeks puffed out and her eyes darted back and forth. "No, nothing's wrong," she drawled out. Megan rolled her eyes aside. "Applejack, you're the element of honesty. That also makes you the worst liar in Equestria." She planted her hands on her hips and glared down. "Is it something I did? Is it something that someone else did?" Applejack's head whipped up as he met Megan's glare. Yeah, it's something y'all did. And something I did, and something my family did. So he kicked at the grass, sending up a cloud of dirt as he physically deflated. Nah, it's not really you. She let out a breath. That videotape Princess Celestia saw my family and I on Wednesday was of you and the original Applejack in Dream Valley. Her head hung at a low angle, her hat shadowing most of her face. It was just out, seeing you there with her back in the day. She looked up, and now here, with all of us. It really drove home the whole basis of the magnate and who you are and what you are to Equestria. Megan blinked. Well, I am? She hung her head. Applejack, I'm just me. I helped out some dear friends when they needed help. That's all. She dropped back down to one knee and held out a hand. Yeah, it was a long time ago, for Equestria and myself. But I'm flesh and blood, like yourself. A sigh escaped the earth pony. I know, and I'm sorry. She cocked her head to the side. What was she really like? Do you read the Applejack? She rubbed her chin. A smile slowly spread across her face. She could be a bit of a klutz, and sometimes had 4 lost hooves, but she was fearless, level-headed in danger, and one heck of a farmer. And she loved her children. She leaned over, grabbed the brim of Applejack's hat, and tilted it up to look into her eyes. And she'd be proud to call you Big Mike, an Applejack, and Granny Smith, Ken. Applejack blinked. Her sighs suddenly became moist. Like a cow I'm liking. She turned and tried over to the cart's harness. Well, I kept the others waiting long enough. Time to get it on! She knelt down and hissed herself. Gotta thank Rarity for making sure my dress could work with the horse, too. Megan stood up, grunting slightly. I'll make sure to stop by and purchase some snacks, she said, winking as the pair walked down to the front carousel boutique, and everyone else gathered there. Megan walked to Mike's side, looking him over. I'd make some bone joke, but you really do look great in it, she said, winking. Mike shrugged. All for Her Majesty's Secret Service. He looked Megan over and let out a whistle. Only you. Put any bone girl the same, Megan. He leaned over and kissed her, holding it for a moment before leaning back. You're even more beautiful than when I married you. Megan threaded an arm through Mike's. And you are even more handsome. She looked around, quickly focusing on Twilight. What's going on? Twilight stood in front of a pair of apples, a single scroll next to her. Her horn flared to life, her eyes screwed shut in concentration. Both apples glowed a moment before quickly expanding, golden bits breaking out of the skin and a pair of windows forming on the side. Within seconds, both apples had transformed into carriages, one larger than the other, but both with fine gold decorations. Megan's jaw dropped. Wow, now that is impressive. Twilight let out a breath and wiped her forehead as her horn started glowing. Thanks, but I'm afraid that's about it from me. She let out another breath. I wanted a large sum of fire-sized mice to tow the carriages, but between those two apples and teleporting everyone over from Earth, I just don't have the energy at the moment. She slung her head. I'm sorry, everyone. Spike walked over and wrapped his arm around her neck. Don't worry, Twilight. This year was still super awesome. Twilight smiled, leaning to the hug. Thanks, Spike. She motioned to the scroll. Could you please send that to Princess Celestia? As Spike grabbed the scroll, he breathed, and its green flame flew on it. She walked over to her left as Big Mac, Caramel, Dr. Hooves, and Blues Noteworthy approached her across the street, each one clad in the top half of a tuxedo. I asked for some help. Applejack's right eye narrowed as Big Mac Caramel. You might want to tell me about this. Big Mac shrugged. Seriously, well, this will be a bit of a surprise. He looked over to Fluttershy's general direction, his already red cheeks turning an even deeper shade. He walked up to the Pegasus and bowed his head. Miss Fluttershy, it'd be my great honor to be your escort for the Grand Gala, if y'all have me, that is. Spike's cheeks suddenly bulged. He spat another cloud of emerald flame, the smoke quickly coalescing into a golden ticket that hovered above the stallion. Fluttershy glanced away. I'd be honored, she said, grinning. She reached out and gently touched Big Mac's foreleg, her cheeks turning a bright crimson. Rarity held up a handkerchief to her muzzle and gently dabbed her nose. Oh, how romantic! She cried out. Applejack let out a happy sigh. It's about dang time. tickets, he muttered, grinning. Twilight leaned over to Caramel, the doctor, and Blues.
Are you three sure you don't want tickets? She asked. This is an awfully big favor you're doing for us, and this is the Grand Gala after all.
The doctor shook his head. Thank you, but no, Twilight. I think I'd rather spend a nice day evening at home with Ditty and the foes. He turned his head. On the Gala's more boring than Gallifrey on a slow day, he muttered under his breath. Caramel waved Twilight off. I'm fine, Miss Twilight. I'll tell you, I'd just soon as walk back home. Gala doesn't sound like my kind of night, I tell you. Blue spoke up. And I have inventory to prepare for this week, though I appreciate it all the same. He turned to the characters, then to Caramel. Looks like we'll be hauling partners, buddy, he said, slapping Caramel on the shoulders. Caramel's eyes widened as his teeth paled. I don't know what you mean, I tell you. He slowly turned to see Big Mac and Dr. Hooves already hitched up to an apple carriage, one that Twilight and her friends were already boarding. Big Mac winked down and smirked slightly. Caramel tried right up to him and leaned close. Just what do you think you're doing? Big Mac snorted. I'll make it sure you got a chance to talk with Blues. He leaned his head to the side, and just trying to help my favorite cousin out too. He reached out with a well-muscled foreleg and gently pushed Caramel away. Now, go on, Caramel. We gotta get moving soon. Caramel sucked in a deep breath and slowly walked over to the other apple carriage, hissing himself up to it. He kept his head straight ahead as Megan and her family boarded it. Blues to him. Hey, after we drop everyone off, care to walk with me back to Ponyville? It'll be pretty dark, and I feel a lot better with some pony by my side on the way there. He paused, waiting for an answer. For about a minute. Caramel, you all right? Caramel's head whipped around. Oh, sir! He shouted. I'd love to. Blues blinked. Okay, thanks. He reached over and smoothed his mane down from the sudden frizz that had developed. Spike clinged over to the first carriage. Get up! He shouted, thrusting his tiny arms in the air and waving them about. Big Mac glanced over the baby dragon, reared back and stomped the ground, sending Spike a half foot in the air. Excuse me! Spike gulped and scratched the back of his head. I mean, would you, Celestia, be so kind as to take us on our way? Big Mac and the doctor exchanged a glance before trotting off. Caramel and Blues waited for them to pass before following. After a few turns, the carriages were on the main road to Canterlot, and the Grand Gala, carrying passengers, hopes, and dreams within. And I just gotta say, I can't believe this, but in this live read, this is probably only the third time I've ever had a chance to voice the Doctor. Maybe I should fix that soon.